It's been 10 years of gay marriage in America. Woo! I wish I had one of those little party blower things to really let everybody know that we're celebrating. Pop Crave and other places have been saying 10 years ago, yesterday, the Supreme Court legalized same. Not anything to do with the democratic process, mind you. Nothing that actually was in the will of the people. Yeah. The Supreme Court legalized across all states federally same-sex marriage in the United States. Just to rub it in your eye a little bit there, America. We got there first. Back in 2013, our conservative government under David Cameron, thank you very much, decided to extend marriage to same-sex couples. And this is a post from 2023.
Do you know why he did?
Was it to lay off the idea? Because I know he got in trouble in 2009 for supposedly homophobic comments.
No, it was nothing to do with that.
Was it his wife?
It was a relation that wanted to get married legally. And
it was nepotism.
It was nepotism.
Nepotism on a national scale.
Fantastic. And our Bish resigned. Remember?
Yeah. But the interesting thing about this post, this is 2023 here, so 10 years. Since then, over 42,000 couples have said I do. I read that and went, is that it?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like a lot in 10 years.
That's really not very many, but I'm not one to, go casting aspersions on the lifestyles of gay people. But you sent me through some information for American detail, for American statistics on this. And it was really, really interesting, actually, because apparently in America, the people who get divorced the most are lesbians. So apparently other women are finally discovering the plight that men have had to suffer with for thousands and thousands of years and decided to opt out of it. 67.2% of same-sex divorces in America in 2021 were female couples, which made them 2.67 times more likely to divorce than heterosexual couples in Sweden, for example, is the one that they give here for some reason. Women are more likely to initiate divorce in both same-sex and opposite-sex marriages. So thanks, women. Good job. But it's funny to think back about how quickly opinions on this whole subject have changed, because even going back to 2006, 2007, 2008, to be able to even try to get elected in America, where, remember, early on this century, California was given a choice whether to legalize gay marriage or not and voted against it because they understood that really what it was doing was completely changing the definition of what marriage is. Even Barack Obama lied. He lied. Obviously, he never actually believed this. He's a politician. He was lying. But he said that he opposed it so that he could appeal to the moderate voters who didn't understand at the time that he was literally an insane socialist who'd been mentored by critical race theorists.
I'm married to Michael.
Yes.
I actually remember this. Back in 2010, you had all of them. All like Hillary Clinton. There's a 2010 footage of her going, I believe marriage is between a man and a woman. It's like, that changed quickly, didn't it?
Yeah, well, the other interesting thing is that by the time you even get to 2011, you find posts from Newsweek, a major news publication, starting to push the prediction, the pie chart. We all remember the pie chart. Let's remember the pie chart together, okay, guys? So what will happen if gay marriage is legalized? So what the pie chart is telling us is just that gay people will get married. What definitely...
Well, hang on a second. As a percentage of gay people, it's actually a very small percentage of gay people who actually got married, right?
But, taken on its face, some did.
I guess,
did.
yeah.
There you go. What definitely will not happen following this is that a third world war will break out.
there are a lot of people saying we are in the third world war already, so yeah.
Various plagues will erupt.
Like COVID.
Schools will begin teaching kids how to have gay sex. And terrorists will win.
Like in Afghanistan.
Like in Afghanistan and Syria. Because remember, Al-Qaeda and ISIS now run Syria, backed entirely by the old US of A.
And Iran,
Iran. And Iran.
And Wales is definitely proving that green one to be correct.
Yeah. So this pie chart, actually, if you just assumed the opposite of what it was trying to imply, within, 15, 14 years of this pie chart being made, incredible predictive power. right here. So what modern Nostradamus put this together should be patting themselves on the back. Because, of course, everybody recognizes now that really what was happening was it was the thin edge of the wedge. That's what it was. It was the idea that this is reasonable, you can kind of understand, you can get the logic that they're putting forward. Yes, it's a complete upending of traditional understandings of what marriage is, it's a complete upending of morals, it's treating people as though all lifestyles are similar and equal in value, and also as though we're all just the same. It's just egalitarian nonsense. But you could kind of understand it at the time, but it was the thin end of the wedge so that they could push all of these other ideas through further. And now they're saying here, just to show again the incredible rate of change in public opinion, because people, one thing that libertarians, for instance, always get wrong is they don't understand that as well as being a purely legal arbiter, the law as set down by governments is often seen as a moral arbiter as well. Yeah. If something is proscribed by law, or at least not permitted by law, people will ascribe a moral value to that. So if all of a sudden the government changes its opinion, people, because most people are sheep, will decide to go along with what they believe the majority opinion to be, even when in the case of the Supreme Court decision, it's not even a majority democratic decision that's being made. So here, the decision was laid down in 2015. Gallup polls suggested that 60% of the public supported legal recognition of same-sex marriages, and this is after, in the run-up to his 2012 re-election, Obama publicly shifted his position and said, actually, now I do support same-sex marriage. I imagine Hillary Clinton did the same. So you have the literal president of the United States saying, actually, it's a good thing. This was a major shift over the previous 2 decades, as support was only 37% in 2005 and as low as 27% in 1996. In May 2025, a Gallup poll shows that support has increased to about 68%, but it has been going down in recent years because it peaked in 2022 at 71%. And then all of a sudden, you start to see things like, trans books for toddlers showing up and all being connected under the very large umbrella of LGBT, gay rights, queer rights, the attempt to queer society, removal of standards, perversion of standards, you could say. And people go, maybe I was fooled.
Yeah, that isn't actually what I was supporting.
Yeah, that's not what they were supporting. And people complain about this. Like, I found this, and somebody was like, I hate this meme because blah, 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 blah. Who cares what you think, dickhead? This is absolutely true. And what the radical Christian, whatever you wanted to call them, the right wing of yesteryear, were warning about, that the thin end of the wedge would be, hey, let us get married. We deserve dignity. We deserve equal legal protections for dignity, whether or not it goes against the majority will or traditional morals of the nation. Then it turns into bake the cake.
That bake the cake thing, I actually really despised as well.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know, I can't remember where in America it was, but basically, Christian Baker was like, I actually don't want to bake
you can go to any other bakery to get this done, I don't want to do it.
And the court ruled against them. And the thing is that really annoyed me about this is that basically that's a contract, right? Mm-hmm. So the court, because it's not like, oh, I'm not going to serve a gay person who comes into my shop. No, here you go. Here's the thing that is on the shelf. Buy the thing, okay, and leave. No, this is, you have to take a contract to create a product that doesn't otherwise exist.
Yeah,
and that forced contracts as well is that's a layer that is just worse. But it's being done for the progress, I guess.
Well, I think the interesting thing about it was appropriately fake and gay, because what they were actually doing was shopping about for bakeries that they knew wouldn't bake the cake for them, so that they could take it to court to enact lawfare.
Yeah, but the nature of the judgment is just terrible. I think I really hate it.
Yeah,
that happened in Belfast as well.
Did it?
It did. Yeah, and eventually they won.
Of course they did.
Yeah. But obviously you can see where the slippery slope goes, because it turns out that following an argument to its logical conclusion is not a fallacy, but in fact a logical thing to do. Big surprise. And people, before it was legalized, Steve Saylor, of course, Of course, Steve Saylor was even predicting in 2013.
He noticed this back in 2013.
Yeah, a big noticer was able to predict this going back to 2013 because, even back then they were writing articles about Fallon Fox, the transgender male athlete, wanting to beat up biological women.
Yeah.
So he was
which he did.
Yeah, which he did. Which he went, oh, actually, if you were just paying attention to news articles in the New York Times, you can see exactly where this is going to go next. And again, you've got the trans books for toddlers now. And I did this video now a few years ago. There will be sequels coming out. Don't worry, guys. I'm doing... they're in the editing docket, so it's fine. But this was the first one that I did, the Harry Hay and the beginning of American gay rights. Even if you go all the way back then, you can see exactly where this is going to go. Harry Hay, this guy, he started the Mattachine Society, one of the big early gay rights movement organizations in America. Went on about how he was so happy that he'd had his first experience with sex with a man when he was 9 years old. He was a big supporter of NAMBLA, who he supported until his death. He was somebody who theorized about the expanding of gender recognition and created things like the term two-spirit. So even if you just go straight back, you can see that this movement, whilst in the 90s, in the later 80s after AIDS, and in the 90s, you had a lot of more moderate people, like, for instance, Andrew Sullivan, positioned as the leaders of the movement. Actually, it was always kick-started and pushed by freaks and radicals, and oftentimes communists. And the moderates who were positioned, again, as the thin
not just
end of the wedge.
oftentimes communists. Like, these people were all communists.
Oh, yeah. These people are now, the moderates are now saying, where did we go wrong? I can't believe that our arguments that we used to completely upend traditional morals in society have been used to continue to upend traditional morals in society through moral browbeating.
Yet again, the communists have done this to us. How many times do the communists have to do this to us for you to realise it's you, not the communists?
Yeah, and in this, he points out as well, there's been huge financial backing for this. Money poured into these groups in the past decade. Charitable funding for LGBT groups totaled $387 million in 2012. In 2021, it was $823 million. LGBT plus organizations saw their assets grow 76% from 2019 to 2021. 2 years.
Growth industry.
Yep. Around double the size of their increase in donations, a group like GLAAD, founded in 1985, saw its funding increase sixfold between 2014 and 2023. The Human Rights Campaign has also seen revenues soar in the past decade. But it's all just a bottom-up movement, guys. It's always just been... Ignore the fact that... So, for instance, the original sexual revolution pushed by people like, I don't know, Margaret Sanger, the eugenicist who helped to develop, alongside Gregory Pincus, the birth control pill, which was one of the first huge advances in technology to open up for the sexual revolution. Ignore the fact that her organization in 1924 was being funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. John D. Rockefeller Jr. himself saying that they need to give money for that. Alfred Kinsey, who you two were talking about, also funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. The Ford Foundation has had a huge part in all of this. All of this, ever since it's been going on, from an early time, has been funded by new money.
Yeah.
American new money from these people who made a load of money. They're obsessed with novelty because they want to get rid of the bourgeois traditional morality. They see it as old-fashioned in the way of progress, of them making more money. Yeah. Because, you open up morality, you open up markets. That's what actually happens.
It makes me think, because remember we had Jamie from Gays Against Groomers, American lady, lesbian, and she said, and it's always stuck with me, that the people who were fighting for gay marriage, she was like, the people who say, no, this is just going to lead to children, lowering the age of consent and all this other stuff going on. She said, and we literally thought they were crazy, like, don't be so ridiculous. But then look where we are. She's at the former movement now, which is Gays Against Groomers for that. So I do wonder, okay, gay people at the beginning maybe want to get married. I don't think it's them that's pushed this, though. I think this is
I think a lot of well-meaning people have been taken for mugs.
Yeah, I think it's been hijacked. It's the LGB is one thing, then you got the TQ plus is...
Well, the LGBT stuff is just a corporate... it's one of the core aspects of intersectionality. And this way back in like the 80s and 90s was consciously developed by a bunch of communists who knew what they were doing. But
Who were ironically being funded by capitalists.
massively so. And I mean, these were at like Harvard Law School as well.
Yeah.
So it's not like these people were like nobodies out in the wilderness or something. And so they crafted these kind of mimetic bullets that they knew were going to win over normal people, like people who are just like, oh yeah, sure, why not? I'm a well-meaning person. And it's like, yeah, well, now you're on the slippery slope going down to horrific degeneracy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that Andrew Sullivan is not somebody who was actually in favour of all of this stuff, except for gay marriage, which is why now he's complaining about it in the New York Times. But I'm sorry, you were used as a moderate to be a battering ram to open the floodgates for all of this stuff.
You were used to launder this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, now it's there, so now what?
But now, 10 years later, as opinions are starting to change on all of this, Pink News and other such publications are starting to worry because there have been challenges. And interestingly, Obergefell versus Hodges was the Supreme Court case that put this into law in the first place. And they're worried about it because, frankly, the legal arguments and justifications behind it to begin with were bollocks.
Oh, just like the abortion one.
Yeah, just like the abortion one. And what happened when they overturned Roe v. Wade was Clarence Thomas was even writing in his, for that, he was saying, maybe we should start to take a look at some of these other big landmark progressive cases, because oftentimes the legal justifications, the arguments, are completely vapid and specious. So with this, it was literally a consolidation of a bunch of different lawsuits that were being put towards the federal government because local state governments weren't allowing people to marry, because there was a bunch of states that had legalized gay marriage, a bunch of states that hadn't. So Obergefell was trying to get married to his longtime partner John Arthur, but they both lived in Ohio, which did not legalize it. So they went over to Maryland, which got married there, but then they got back, and he found that because it wasn't legal in Ohio, they couldn't get some kind of legal certificate listed as Arthur's surviving spouse on his death certificate due to the Ohio state ban.
Right.
So they decided to throw the lawsuit out. The Supreme Court, when they had all of these consolidated ones turned into Obergefell versus Hodges, decided to rule in favour. It was a very close thing.
Yeah.
It was 5-4 decision. And that was primarily because, at the time, of course, it was a Democrat-stacked Supreme Court. You still had people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the court. But the thing is, even looking into this for this segment, even like reviews since then, which have totally in favour, a lot of them say, listen, they got to the right answer. Obviously, they should have ruled in favour of this. But they used the wrong reasoning.
Exactly the same for Roe versus Wade.
Yeah.
Exactly the same.
Which made it very, very weak. Yeah. It makes it very weak law because what they did was they justified it under the 14th Amendment, specifically due process and equal protection clauses, and found an implied right to dignity in it. Which meant that if certain states were denying people the right to marry because it was a same-sex coupling, that meant that you were denying them dignity. The court cannot prescribe you dignity through legal rulings, okay? Dignity is something that you feel in yourself. The government can't give it to you like it's some kind of product, which means, again, that the ruling very, very, very weak, especially now that it's a 6-3 conservative.
Especially now Clarence Thomas has had a scalp already.
Yes, and they've already made a number of hits against it, and this is going back to 2020, because it also restricted people's religious freedoms. Yes. So there was a woman, a county clerk called Kim Davis, who did not want to sign off on a load of gay marriage certificates because religiously she didn't agree with it. And she got fired for that, and I think she had to spend 5 days in jail for that. So she tried to get an appeal from the Supreme Court to see about getting the Obergefell overturned. They said they couldn't, but even then, when they were writing their dissents in this, Thomas, and writing for Alito as well, said that the court's decision enables courts and governments to brand religious adherents who believe that marriage is between one man and one woman as bigots, making their religious liberty concerns that much easier to dismiss, because there's the conflict as well over this incredibly novel interpretation of the 14th Amendment, meaning that you've got a right to dignity. Okay, great. How do you dole that out then?
How do you enforce it? How do you quantify it?
Yeah. Versus the much more strict and easily understandable right of the First Amendment to religious freedoms. So there is a lot of weakness in that court ruling. We'll see. I don't think it's going to get overturned, but it's interesting that 10 years later, they're kind of going, oh, we're starting to make people hate us. And, oh, God, this is a really weak ruling to begin with. They've already overturned Roe v. Wade. So happy anniversary, everybody. Live a good life, I suppose.
If you would like to watch the full uncut version that is also uncensored, head on over to lotuseaters.com to find out more.